The following is a presentation of Creepy AF, a Springer Podcast Network production.
There are nights you remember because they changed your life. And there are nights you remember because they remind you how close you came to losing it. I was 20 years old, still living with my parents while working and trying to figure out what the hell adulthood was supposed to look like. My parents were headed out for dinner and a concert, and before they even backed out of the driveway, I already knew exactly how I planned on spending the evening. Jenna. We'd been talking for a few weeks. She was funny, sarcastic, gorgeous. Way out of my league if you asked me. Somehow she agreed to come over. As soon as my parents left, I texted her. House is empty. 5 minutes later, on my way. Sometimes life hands you a gift. Sometimes it wraps a nightmare inside it. She showed up wearing jeans and an oversized hoodie, carrying a bag of candy like we were actually there to watch a movie. We laughed, joked around, and eventually settled onto the couch. The movie played in the background, but neither of us were paying much attention. We kept talking, stealing glances at each other until the distance between us disappeared. She smiled. I smiled back. The movie had become expensive background noise. That's when the sound exploded through the house. It wasn't a creak. It wasn't the furnace. It sounded like someone had kicked something. Jenna immediately sat upright. What the hell was that? I don't know. I muted the TV. Silence. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound louder than it actually is. I'll check it out. You sure? No one's supposed to be here. I grabbed the fireplace poker from beside the mantel, not because I thought I was John Wick, but because holding something felt better than holding nothing. I walked through the kitchen, then I saw it, the back door, wide, open. My stomach dropped. I knew damn well I locked it after my parents left. Cold air drifted inside. The porch light illuminated the empty backyard. Nobody. I stepped outside. Nothing but trees swaying in the wind. The fence, the shed. Nothing moved. I walked around the yard, checked behind the shed, looked along the fence line. Still nothing. Probably didn't latch all the way, I muttered to myself, trying to sound convincing. The problem? I didn't believe a damn word I was saying. I shut the door and locked it. Deadbolt, chain, everything. And I started checking the rest of the house. Living room, dining room, laundry room, garage. Nothing. I actually laughed. You're freaking yourself out, Nick. I turned toward the stairs. Then I heard it. A scream. Not a movie scream. Not somebody playing around. A full scream of absolute terror. My blood turned to ice. I sprinted downstairs so fast I nearly missed the last 3 steps. What I saw made every muscle in my body lock up. A man dressed completely in black had Jenna pinned to the floor. She was fighting like hell, throwing elbows and trying to push him off. He was stronger. He had one hand over her mouth, the other trying to keep her arms down. "Get the hell off of her!" I didn't think. I launched myself at him. The tackle sent both of us crashing into the coffee table. Wood splintered. The table folded underneath us. He punched me once, hard. Stars exploded across my vision. I answered with 2 shots to his face. He grunted, tried to shove me off. I grabbed his hoodie and slammed his head into the hard wood. He clawed at my eyes. I hit him again. For 1 second I thought I had him. Then the bastard drove his knee into my ribs. Every bit of air left my lungs. He twisted free, scrambled to his feet, and bolted toward the kitchen. "No!" I chased him. He yanked open the back door and disappeared into the darkness before I could reach him. I stood there gasping for air. Every instinct screamed to chase him. Every other instinct told me that Jenna needed me more. I turned around and ran back. She was crying, shaking. I wrapped my arms around her. "It's okay." Even as I said it, I knew it wasn't. Nothing about tonight was okay. I grabbed my phone. 911, what's your emergency? Someone broke into my house. The police arrived within minutes. Then my parents. Explaining why your girlfriend was at your house while your parents were gone is awkward. Explaining it while talking to 3 police officers standing in your living room is a whole different level of miserable. Dad rubbed the bridge of his nose. "So, you thought this was a good idea?" "Probably not." Mom hugged me before she even finished yelling. "I don't care about that right now." She looked at my bruised face. "I'm just glad you're alive." The officers searched every inch of the property. One of them came back with muddy footprints leading toward the neighbor's fence. About 20 minutes later, another patrol car pulled into the driveway. One of the officers couldn't hide his grin. "We got him." "What happened?" "He tried hopping your neighbor's privacy fence." "And?" "The neighbor owns a 100-pound German Shepherd." I blinked. "Seriously?" The officer nodded. Dog wasn't interested in negotiations. The next day we learned who the guy actually was. It wasn't random. It wasn't a burglar. It wasn't someone looking for money. It was Jenna's ex-boyfriend. She'd broken up with him months earlier after he'd become possessive and obsessive. He'd been stalking her ever since. Watching, waiting, following. He tailed her car all the way to my house without either of us noticing. He waited until he thought we were distracted. Then he came in through the back door. If that bang hadn't happened, if I ignored it, if Jenna hadn't screamed, I don't like thinking about what would have happened. People always tell you that monsters hide under the bed. They're wrong. Sometimes they follow taillights. Sometimes they wear black hoodies. Sometimes they already know your name before you even know theirs. And sometimes, the only thing standing between someone you care about and pure evil is being in the right place at the right time. People always say that being home alone is relaxing. Usually they're right, until one stranger reminds you how fast normal can disappear. My name is Rosa, and I was 21, juggling college classes while trying to keep my sanity. Finals were creeping up, and I had a research paper due in a couple of days that felt like it'd never end. My dad, Javier, was heading out bowling with some coworkers after work. He stood by the front door putting on his shoes. "You gonna survive by yourself?" I rolled my eyes. I think I'll manage. He laughed. Don't stay up all night. No promises. He grabbed his keys, pointed at me, and smiled. Love you. Love you too. A few seconds later, I heard his truck pull away. The house became quiet, exactly how I liked it. I made myself a cup of coffee, opened my laptop, and started typing. Citation after citation, paragraph after paragraph. The hours slipped by. Around 9:30. The ring notification popped up on my phone. Someone was at the door. I frowned. Dad wasn't expecting anybody. Neither was I. I opened the Ring app. Standing on the porch was a man I'd never seen before. Mid-40s, work hoodie, hands shoved in his pockets. I didn't say anything. Maybe he'd leave. Instead, he looked directly into the camera. Hello? Still nothing. Then he rang the doorbell again. I finally pressed the microphone. Can I help you? The guy leaned closer. Hey, is Javier home? Without even thinking, I answered. No, he's not. The words were out before I realized I just told a complete stranger I was home alone. Great job, Rosa. Real smart. The man let out a sigh. I work with Javier. I stayed quiet. He had transmission trouble about a month ago. I gave him rides to work for a few days. That made me hesitate. Dad had been having problems with his truck. I remembered him complaining about the transmission. He even borrowed rides for almost a week while I was getting looked at. So maybe this guy was telling the truth. He continued. Javier told me he was going to pay me $40. $40. That sounded believable. I shrugged. Well, you'll have to talk to him about that. I said he's not here. The guy's expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. His jaw tightened. His smile disappeared. What are you? He tilted his head. His bitch? For a second, I couldn't believe I heard him correctly. Excuse me? You heard me. My face burned. No, I'm his daughter. He stared at the camera for several seconds, then slowly nodded. Oh, well, surely you can give me the money then. I shook my head. No, I can't. I'm sorry. Silence. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he took a deep breath. Fine. He turned around, walked down the porch, stepped into the yard, and disappeared out of view. I locked the deadbolt anyway, just in case. I tried going back to my paper. Didn't happen. Something about that conversation bothered me. Maybe it was the way he looked into the camera. Maybe it was how quickly his attitude changed. Maybe it was being called something no woman should ever have to hear from a complete stranger. Either way, my concentration was gone. Then, glass exploded across the living room. I screamed. A rock had come flying through the front window, sending shattered glass across the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs. For one terrifying second, I thought someone was coming inside. I ducked behind the kitchen counter and grabbed my phone. I peeked toward the front yard. The same man was sprinting down the sidewalk without looking back. I immediately called 911. My window was just smashed. Ma'am, are you safe? I think so. He ran away. Stay inside. Officers are on the way. Dad got to the house just a couple minutes after the police. He looked at the broken window and then at me. What happened? I explained everything from the beginning. The Ring camera, the money, the insult, the rock. Dad just stood there shaking his head. Son of a bitch. One of the officers asked if we had the Ring footage. Dad nodded. Yeah, my daughter talked to him through it. The officer smiled. That makes our job a whole lot easier. It didn't take long. The detectives identified the man almost immediately. Turns out, he actually did work with my dad. Everything he said about the rides was true. And yes, Dad honestly did owe him $40. Not because he was trying to avoid paying him. Life just got busy. He kept forgetting. That was it. $40. 40 damn dollars. The guy was arrested and charged for criminal mischief and harassment after the ring footage showed exactly what happened. Dad's employer wasn't exactly thrilled to learn one employee had gone to another employee's house, harassed his daughter, and smashed a window over $40. He was fired. Dad also got a restraining order. He looked at me afterward and apologized over and over. I should have paid him sooner. I shook my head. No, you should have, but none of this is your fault. Because here's the truth. Normal people don't threaten someone's family over $40. Normal people don't insult someone's daughter because they can't get their way. And normal people definitely don't throw rocks through windows when they hear the word no. Some people don't need a reason to become dangerous. Sometimes, $40 is just the excuse that they're waiting for. People say a house changes after someone dies. The silence feels heavier, the memories stick to the walls. Every room reminds you of someone who isn't there anymore. When my grandma passed away, she left me her house. I wasn't exactly ready to own a place, but I couldn't bring myself to sell it either. I grew up there. Every birthday, every Christmas, every family dinner happened inside those walls. So I moved in. The place was old, but it was home. At least, I thought it was. It started with a few beers after work. My buddies John, Dalton, and I met up at our usual bar on a Friday night. A couple beers turned into several. Nothing out of control. Guys want to head back to my place? I asked. John shrugged. Sure. Dalton laughed. As long as you got more beer. I've got a whole case of Heineken. Say less. About 20 minutes later, we pulled into my driveway. The porch light lit up the front of the old house. John looked at it and smiled. Still weird thinking that this place is yours now. Yeah, still feels like Grandma's. We kicked off our shoes, threw ourselves onto the couch, and I flipped through the TV channels until I landed on a college football game. Perfect. John stretched. You still got that beer? In the fridge. Just bring the whole damn case in here. He stood up. I got it. He disappeared into the kitchen. Dalton and I were arguing over which team was going to blow the game when John suddenly yelled, Yo! I looked toward the kitchen. You alright? John walked back into the living room carrying the case. You two assholes fucking with me? Dalton looked confused. What are you talking about? I swear I just saw somebody standing in the kitchen. I laughed. No, you didn't. I'm serious. He set the beer down. I saw someone out of the corner of my eye. When I turned around, nobody. Dalton smirked. You've had too many beers. John shook his head. Maybe. He cracked open a bottle. I probably imagined it. We all laughed. Conversation moved on. Football came back. Everything felt normal again. About an hour later, Dalton stood up. I'm taking a leak. He disappeared down the hallway. 30 seconds passed. Then another minute. Finally, he came back, only now, he looked pale. He stared at John. Were you just down the hallway? John frowned. No. Dalton looked at me. You? I've been sitting here the whole time. Dalton rubbed the back of his neck. I thought somebody walked past the bathroom. Nobody spoke. John slowly lowered his beer. That's exactly what I saw in the kitchen. The room suddenly didn't feel as comfortable anymore. I forced a laugh. You idiots are freaking each other out. Neither of them laughed back. The sound echoed through the house, heavy, like somebody had fallen onto the floor upstairs. Every one of us looked toward the ceiling. Nobody moved. Dalton broke the silence. "Tell me you heard that." "I heard it," John whispered. I grabbed the TV remote and muted the game. I stood up. "It's probably the house settling." John looked at me. "At 11:30 at night?" I didn't answer, because honestly, it hadn't sounded like the house. It sounded like a person. We searched every room together. Living room, kitchen, laundry room, bedrooms, closets. Nothing. No broken windows, no open doors, no signs anyone had been inside. John looked at me. "That's everywhere." I looked toward the hallway. Not quite. The attic. The pull-down ladder sat above the hallway ceiling. I grabbed the flashlight from the junk drawer. "You guys coming?" Neither of them argued. I pulled the cord. The attic stairs unfolded with a loud creak. Dust floated through the flashlight beam. I climbed first. Every step groaned beneath my weight. The attic smelled old. Wood, dust, insulation. I slowly swept this flashlight across stacks of boxes my grandma had kept for decades. Christmas decorations, old furniture, suitcases, nothing. Then, the light reached the far corner. I froze. Someone was sitting there, perfectly still. An old man, his knees pulled against his chest. His eyes locked onto mine. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stared. "What the?" I nearly dropped the flashlight. "There's someone up here." John looked up. "What?" I backed down the ladder so fast I nearly fell. The second my feet hit the floor, all three of us ran. Nobody tried to be brave. Nobody tried to fight him. We sprinted outside and called 911 with shaking hands. Police arrived within minutes. We watched from the driveway as officers entered the house. A few minutes later, they brought him out in handcuffs. The old man never resisted. He never said a word. He just kept looking back at the house, as if he didn't want to leave. Detectives searched the attic. What they found made the whole thing even worse. The man had been living up there. There was a sleeping bag, canned food, empty water bottles, flashlights, old clothes, and a box filled with notebooks. Inside were hundreds of handwritten journal entries. Every single one was about my grandmother. There was also dozens of love letters, letters she never answered, some she never even received. The detectives believed he'd been obsessed with her for years. Page after page talked about how she was meant to be with him, how someday she'd finally understand. The handwriting became more unstable as the years went on, more possessive, more disturbing. Then they found one final notebook. Near the end, one sentence stopped everyone cold. "I stayed with her until the end. She never knew I was there." The detectives couldn't prove exactly what he meant. Maybe he was talking about watching from outside. Maybe he was talking about being inside the house. Maybe he was there the day my grandma died. They reopened parts of the investigation just to be safe. As far as I know, nothing ever tied him directly to her death. But they never ruled him out completely either. I still own that house. People ask me if I'm afraid of ghosts. I'm not. Ghosts are just stories. Real people can hide in your attic for weeks. They can watch you without making a sound. They can convince themselves they're part of your life when you've never even met them. And sometimes, the scariest thing in an old house isn't the history. It's discovering someone has been making new memories there without you ever knowing.